You're listening to the Trailblazers Podcast, Episode 8 with Tyvi Small.
You have to be intimate with fear. You have to be intimate with fear because there are going to be things that will come that you'll be afraid of, that you won't know the outcome of. But if you're intimate with fear, you can put it in its proper place so it doesn't prevent you from achieving your goals.
You're listening to the Trailblazers Podcast, where we will explore the stories of successful Black professionals. Join us as we highlight the knowledge, resources, and tools of these accomplished trailblazers to help provide the know-how, confidence, and motivation you need to blaze your trail. And now, here's your host, Stephen Hart.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Trailblazers Podcast. Today on our show, I am excited to welcome a very special guest, Mr. Tyvi Small. Tyvi is the Director of Diversity and Community Relations for the University of Tennessee in the College of Business Administration. So here's a little bit of a background on Tyvi. He graduated from the University of South Florida, Go Bulls, with a bachelor's degree in communications and a master's degree in education. And he's currently a PhD candidate at the University of Tennessee. Now, prior to his time in Knoxville, he was the education coordinator and assistant to the mayor for the city of West Palm Beach, Florida. Now, Tyvi is also very involved in his community. He serves on the board of directors for the Knoxville Area Urban League and Leadership Knoxville. And he's an active member and board member of the Knoxville Alumni Chapter of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. And he's also a board member of the Development Corporation of Knox County. Now, this was an all-around terrific interview where Tyvi just kept pouring out so much amazing wisdom. And I really gained so much from this interview about where, he explained so much about seeking out more sponsors instead of simply finding mentors. And he left us with so many inspiring messages and quotes that I would love you to shoot me a tweet after you've listened to the episode at TBPod. And, let me know what your favorite takeaway was from this episode today. So, without further delay, let's go ahead and dive into today's episode. Tyvi, welcome to today's show, and thank you for being our guest.
Thank you for having me, Stephen.
Man, I've shared a little bit about you in our intro, but, we want to get beyond the scripted bio a bit.
Right.
Could you maybe share something that's not polished for media consumption, but it's 100% Tyvi?
I don't know what it is. There's not much that is not polished. No, I'm kidding. Hey, I'm corny. Hey, I like to laugh. I like to have fun. I'm corny. I think my jokes are funny. Nobody else does. But I enjoy life. I like to, you only get one life. And so I want to make the best of this one. So I'd rather spend time enjoying it and laughing than worrying about the small stuff.
That's it. That's so true. So for the benefit of our audience, could you maybe share a little bit about what it is that you do in your day-to-day at UT?
Okay, so I'm with the Haslam College of Business at the University of Tennessee, and my current role, I serve as Director of Diversity and Community Relations, and I serve as the college's Chief Diversity Officer and also the Chief Community Relations Officer. So my diversity job is really spent making sure that we create an environment, both in faculty and staff and students, that is welcoming, as we say, welcoming to all and hostile to none. And so I do all of the diversity workshops, training, recruitment, hiring, student programs, outreach, access programs for undergraduates. And then on the community relations side, I do a lot of corporate and business partnerships, working with a lot of not-for-profits in the area. And I serve on quite a few boards trying to link the university resources to the greater Knoxville and the greater community's resources. Wow,
Tyvi. Man, that's a lot of scope.
I know.
I'm sure you're making some of the entrepreneurs' heads spin right now. How do you, so let's talk about that. How do you actually manage that much scope? How do you stay on top of so many different things happening at the same time?
People talk about, when you see successful people, you really determine a successful, particularly a businessman or woman, by the person they surround themselves with. And number one is I have a really good team, a really committed team of folks that I work with. And then also I have support from the top down. So we understand the importance of diversity in corporate America and in the business world. And so when I have support, not only from our corporate and business partners, but also university administration. And so when you have that kind of support, you can do the work you need to do, and you have the resources that you need to do that work.
Right. Why do you enjoy what you do?
Listen, I feel I make a difference. And so one of the things I started when I came here was the BETS program. It's a program that takes high school students from all across the Southeast, and we give them a business to run. So, most high school students, when they come into the university, particularly those who want to study business, they either run a business, have a business idea, working on somebody's business or friend's business. And so what we've decided to do is take these high ability, diverse kids from all across the Southeast, bring them on campus and teach them everything there is to know about business. At least for 2 weeks, all you can learn for 2 weeks. And to see the return on that investment, Stephen, I tell you, it gives me joy to see these young people who are high school students who have now come to the university. They've graduated from high school, come to the university, and now are starting their own business. The gentleman that's doing my wedding invitations and programs for my wedding is one of those students who came through the program, graduated from UT, and have started and runs a successful business here in town.
Wow, that's got to be incredibly rewarding to kind of see that transition take place, right?
Absolutely. Someone who I met as a high school junior who is now he's doing great things in the business world. And I mean that's what gets me up every day, to see us provide opportunities for young people to grow, develop, learn, and be contributing members of our society. You can't beat that.
Yeah, you certainly can't. So let me ask you, what enticed you to follow this path that you found yourself on? Was this always something you kind of envisioned doing as a younger version of you?
No, I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I have no idea what I want to be when I grow up. But what happened was you take advantage of opportunities that are presented before you, and then you have to have faith that whatever higher power you believe in is preordaining your steps, right? And so when I was at the University of South Florida, I was really involved as a student, just really involved in a lot of stuff as a student. And so when I graduated, I had an opportunity to work there. And when I was working at the University of South Florida, I was doing a lot of multicultural recruitment and scholarships. It was a phenomenal job as a young grad. And then I had the opportunity to go work for the mayor of West Palm Beach, Lois Frankel, who is now in Congress. And that was a phenomenal opportunity. And I got that opportunity with the mayor because of the stuff that I had done as an undergrad working with the Florida Students Association and some other things. And when this opportunity at UT came up, it really married both what I had done at USF and then what I had done in the mayor's office, working on a lot of her business partnerships, particularly business and educational partnerships. And so when you take someone I just had this really interesting experience, and just so happened UT was looking for someone who had that same skill set. And so we were able to marry both of those skill set. And this has been a great opportunity for me.
Wow. So in present day, I know you have a lot happening right now, as you echoed a moment ago. You're about to get married.
Right.
From information I've read, you're working on your PhD.
Correct. I should be done, hopefully, fingers crossed, in either May or December of 2016.
Wow. Congrats on both.
Thank you.
Both big items this year, right?
Right.
So just go ahead.
Now I was going to say 2016 is my year.
That it is. So probably staying on theme, do you have mentors today or a mastermind group that kind of keeps you progressing forward and helping you remain accountable to your goals?
So I have I call them my board of directors, and when I talk to students, I say, get you a board of directors. These are people who are going to tell you the truth, no matter what. These are people who are going to look out for you. These are people who have been where where you're trying to get to. And so get a group of mentors that you consider your board of directors. And these are the people that will help guide you, and they can be from all walks of life. Most of the the most salient things I've learned, I come from my grandma. Most of the stuff, I wrote an article recently that was published in the Knoxville Business Journal, and it was really talking about the leadership lessons that are all around you. And so a lot of the things that I've learned about leading people and leading teams and leading organizations didn't come from some book I read or from some corporate executive, but it was the lessons that I learned from my grandma, my aunts, my sister, my mom. And so when you talk about getting your board of directors, make sure it's a diverse group of people that represents the totality of who you are. But Stephen, one of the things that I've really learned recently is mentors are good, and mentors will give you advice, and when you seek them out, they'll be there for you. But what I tell students now is to get sponsors, right? So mentors is passive, but sponsors are active, right? So sponsors are the people who are going to open doors for you, not just tell you which door to go to, but a sponsor is going to be someone who will grab your hand and who will open the door and say, "This is Tyvi. I know him. Let's give him an opportunity." So I think sponsors take it a step further than mentors. Mentors are great people to have, and trust me, I have several. But more and more, I'm looking for sponsors, people who are going to see my value, see what I can bring to any situation or any organization, and then open doors for me. And so right now, I tell my students, you want to get sponsors, not mentors.
So who would be a sponsor for one of your students? Maybe give us an example of what that would look like in your, give us a case study of maybe how one of your students have kind of connected with a sponsor and what they were able to do for them.
Well, I can talk about students, or I can talk about myself.
Sure.
So when I moved here, one of my greatest sponsors in Knoxville has been Phyllis Nichols. Phyllis is the president and CEO of the Knoxville Area Urban League. When I came to Knoxville, I was involved with the Urban League of the Palm Beaches. And when I came here, the Urban League president in West Palm connected Phyllis and I. And when I came here, Phyllis not only said, "Hey, Tyvi, this is what you need to do. I'm going to help you get connected." But Phyllis really opened doors. She allowed me to join. She recruited me for this board called Introduction Knoxville that connected me with so many other young, actually, I won't, not all young, but these are professionals who are either ready to get re-engaged into the community or who are new to the area who want to get engaged. And so they're people, they're bank presidents, they're hospital CEOs, they're C-suite people, they're educators, they're government officials, they're politicians. And so Phyllis said, "Hey, Tyvi, you need to do this. These are the people that you need to talk to. Let me open this door for you." Then Phyllis got me engaged with the Urban League and doing some stuff with what we call our National Achiever Society. She then worked with the board to get me appointed to the board of directors for the Knoxville Area Urban League. And so from her opening those doors, Stephen, what happened was I got another door open and I got exposure to other people. And then that opened the door and I got exposure to other people. And so people talk about how connected I am in the community. And that was all because people like Phyllis Nichols, Phyllis in particular here in Knoxville, opened doors for me, got me in the right rooms, got me connected with the people that I needed to be connected to. And so that is an example of sponsorship. She didn't just say, "Hey, Tyvi, this is what you need to do.
Go talk to that person."
Go talk to that person. She would say, "Hey, let me bring you to this meeting with me so you can talk to that person." Or, "Hey, Tyvi, come here with me." Or, "Tyvi, I need you to be here. Be my guest at this event so you can meet this person." And what happened is professionally, how it helped professionally was now I have access to leaders, both business and political leaders who can now provide opportunities for our students, who can now provide internships for our students, who can now provide professional jobs for our students, who can provide all the other things we need our students to have access to be successful. And so that's the example of me having a sponsor.
Right. So, I mean, very important for your students, more important for your students as they get out into the working world.
Right.
And, I think that's huge, for anyone, at any level. That's great. I hope that everyone listening kind of absorbs that. And if you're in a position to be a sponsor, I encourage you to do so. It's very rewarding. And I've benefited a great deal, Tyvi, from what you just echoed there a moment ago. So many people who have said, "Stephen, I really appreciate what you're doing with the podcast. Keep it going." And then there are other people, who have actually stepped in and helped me to secure some of the interviews you guys have listened to so far. So,
right.
And they've been sponsors in that regard. So thanks for that example. That's great. In each of these interviews,
right.
One of the things that's important to me and to our audience is for us to not only hear about your successes, right? But let's talk about some of the challenges, some of the fears and failures that, probably have helped you along the journey, right?
Right.
We all experience, bumps and bruises, especially earlier on in the career journey, right? So I'd love if you could share with us maybe some of the biggest lessons you learned earlier on, maybe at USF, when you were still failing.
In terms of leadership lessons, one of the things that I learned early on was I ran for student body president at USF, and I won the election as a write-in, my running mate and I, and then we got kicked out of the election due to some crazy stuff. It wasn't anything illegal, but just a minor policy violation. And what I learned from that situation is about resilience, where if you're doing things for the right reason, you can still make a difference, regardless of if you don't have the title or don't have the accolades or those kinds of things. And so that's a really good reminder to me that there's, like my grandma used to say, there's always more than one way to skin a cat. If you didn't win the election, but can you still live out what you wanted to live out in terms of making the campus better by doing it in other areas? Mm-hmm. And I hope that's what I did to show people that I wasn't in this for me, but I was really in it for the betterment, if you will, of the entire student body. And then the next year we ran again, and then we won. And so had a chance to be student body president for my USF days, when I left USF. I tell you, Stephen, when I started working at USF, and I do believe this, I could have retired from USF.
Right.
Because, folks had known me, they had seen me grow up. I was working there as a professional. I got my master's while I was working there. But one of the key things that happened is I needed to find out if I was as good as as people said I was, right? And I don't mean that in a bragging, but it's like when you draw something and your mom goes, "That's a beautiful picture." Now we all know it looks horrible, but that's what mom says, right? Mom says it's a beautiful picture. And so USF was my mom, if you will, in terms of giving me opportunities. Yeah, I had some great mentors, but I needed to challenge myself. And what I would tell people is, if you really want to grow, you really want to learn, you really want to develop, you have to challenge yourself. You have to get out of that comfort zone that you've built for yourself that says, hey, things are fine. They're paying me well. I'm doing good work. But sometimes you have to challenge yourself. And I don't think if I had stayed at USF, I'm just not sure that I would have grown as much as I have, going to the mayor's office. Yeah. Going into the mayor's office, boy, was that was an eye-opening experience, and I enjoyed every minute of it. And then now coming here to the University of Tennessee and being able to do some of the things that I've done here. And so I would say you got to challenge yourself. You got to get out of your comfort zone, and you got to really be honest with yourself about what you want out of life.
Right.
So those are some of the things I've learned.
Absolutely great points, man. It leads me to another question that I've asked a couple guests before you, and that is, are you more afraid of failing to achieve a goal that you've set, or do you think you're more afraid of the larger responsibilities that come after you've messed around and achieved that goal?
The first part, maybe failing. I think I'm more afraid to achieve the goal. I think that once I set out on a goal, I think if I achieve it, I think I would have put myself in the position to be successful in that. Right. I know that leadership is an awesome responsibility, and I think I'm prepared for it. I don't ever go into a situation or an opportunity thinking I'm not going to do well, I'm not going to meet my objectives. I think by the time I get to the point where I'm ready to make it happen, I've psyched myself out both mentally and physically, and I'm ready to achieve that goal. And so I would say it's probably more afraid that I'll fail to achieve it.
Mm-hmm.
Did that make sense?
Absolutely. So let's expand on this fear factor, right? Could you maybe share with us something that you feared on your journey that you had to overcome to experience some of the growth that you've been sharing with us? And tell us what you did to overcome those fears.
People often don't realize this, but I am public speaking is not my thing, and I think it was not necessarily the fact that I couldn't do it, but it was how people would receive it. So I was worried about what people would think, how they would react, how they would receive what I'm trying to share, and so I've often tried to shy away from public speaking, but it's those mentors and those people around you sometimes who see something in you that you don't see in yourself. And so they consistently push me into situations and positions where I had to do that pretty regular. And people see me, and when I talk to close friends and I tell them about this, they go, there is absolutely no way that you have any. You said, you do it. I see you do it. Multiple times a week, whether it's a group of 800 people that you're leading for the MLK symposium, or the diversity job fair where you're emceeing that with our corporate employers, corporate partners. And so people see me do it so often that they don't understand that it still represents a little bit of trepidation for me. But to get over that fear, I just did. Susan Packard, we had an event. Stephen, last week, Women in Business Summit, our first annual, and I coordinated that led that for the university.
Nice.
And we had Susan Packard speaking. Susan Packard is the co-founder of HGTV and Scripps Networks. So if you guys watch HGTV, Great American Country, DIY, Travel Channel, she's the co-founder of that organization, that company. And one of the things she said, which I thought was so profound for some reason, was you have to be intimate with fear. You have to be intimate with fear, because there are going to be things that will come that you'll be afraid of, that you won't know the outcome of. But if you're intimate with fear, you can put it in its proper place so it doesn't prevent you from achieving your goals. And so that's one of the things that I'm starting to live by. I must have repeated that. God, the event was 2 weeks ago, and I must have repeated that 10 times now to people who I'm talking to or mentoring or sponsoring about this intimacy you have to have with fear in order to overcome it and then be successful.
So, Tyvi, how did you get intimate with your fear of public speaking and actually overcome that? You just did it.
I did it. I looked up, there are a few, for my summer program, we bring these people in to talk about public speaking. And so I was sitting in the back of the room and listen just like my students were, talking about presenting, because the business camp that I talked to you about earlier, the students have to present their businesses. So they have to go out and they have 4 quarters. They get money. They have to make decisions about where they're going to open offices, what products, lines. And at the end of it, they have to present their businesses. And so we have some people come in and talk about public speaking. And so I would sit in the back of the room and I would make notes and I would internalize some of the things they said that, most great public speakers do. And so there was a bit of a quasi-academic thing that I did, that I took notes and kind of jotted some comments and thoughts down about how I can improve mine. And then the other thing I did was I did it, right? So I just did it, Right. So the more I did it, the more I became comfortable with it. I can remember just sweating and getting so nervous. And now when I do it, I think, I put myself in the headspace of, this is my show, kind of like Stephen Hart, like Trailblazers. I think this is my show, and I'm responsible for shepherding this from start to finish. And so now it's easier for me to do that. It's easier for me to connect with it, because the thing I thought is I thought I had to be somebody else, right? I looked at the people who did it well, and I thought I had to be them, or such and such does it like this, or such and such is this way. And once I realized that I just had to be myself, I didn't have to be a version of somebody else. I think I became more comfortable with the idea of being me. I'm quirky, so I tell jokes, I connect with the audience. I do things like that I think are comfortable for me, and I think people see that and they feed off of it. And then for what people say, I do a fairly good job at it.
Right. So for some of our guests who maybe don't have the platform you do to force themselves into public speaking, I'll just go ahead and give a plug to Toastmasters International. Yes. I knew 4 years ago I was going to podcast, but I knew a year ago that, this was going to happen. My goal was end of end of 2015 to have this podcast going, and it started in December 2015. Didn't actually publish till February of this year, but I joined Toastmasters, and it really helped me to begin to get in front of people and get comfortable getting up there and getting through those sweaty palms and the ums and the ahs, which still come, but you learn to become a little bit more comfortable. It helps you with your public speaking. It helps you develop some confidence, helps you with some leadership skills. So maybe for some of your students too, that might be listening to this, and others, you know, in the business community, you have a local Toastmasters chapter, and it's very inexpensive and very, very accessible to you to be able to improve on your public speaking skills. So
and when you talk about communication, when you're in business, and this is one of the things I talk to students about, when you're in business in particular, all of our students are getting business degrees. Communication, being able to communicate effectively is so important.
Absolutely.
No matter what level you're in the business, whether you're at the ground floor, where you're entry level, or you're at the C-suite, being able to communicate with those, you know, being able to communicate up and down is so important. And so this generation, I see a lot of times, because of social media and text language, that it's harder and harder now for them to be able to communicate effectively, communicate their ideas, communicate their thoughts. And so it is very important. It's very important. Absolutely, it is.
Concerned about the soft skills, eh?
Soft skills are important, and that's one of the things that we realized is our students, technically, they were sound. Nobody could hold a candle to them. But the soft skills is what would trip our students up a lot.
So I appreciate you sharing that. That was a excellent example of fear, and you know, we're appreciative of you know, the idea of just getting out there and getting it done to help overcome that fear. And that's a fear that just about everybody has, right? It's with public speaking and communicating. Tyvi, do you have any daily rituals or routines that help you keep your mind sharp and help you stay grounded? Yeah,
two things. Number one is prayer. I think I have a pretty solid prayer life. And then the other thing that I do, so whatever being, again, that you connect with, being able to ground yourself. One of my mentors, actually one of my sponsors, Dr. Anton Reese, talks about this, you know, grounding yourself every morning before you go into whatever situation. Take some time to ground yourself. If you have to get up earlier, to do what you need to do, but when you get up in the morning, and then when you go into the office, take some time to ground yourself, meaning you don't answer emails, you don't answer the phone, but you just take time to mentally process what you have going on for the day, and then you get into the day-to-day issues of work. And so I try to, you know, maintain a healthy prayer life, and also try to ground myself every morning when I get up. Before I do anything, I'll pray, I'll ground myself, and then I read 3 newspapers. I read them online, and I read 3 newspapers every single day.
Right.
Yep. Every day.
I found that, you know, on the flip side of the wheel, it's almost impossible for me to ground myself at home, because I typically wake up to two screaming kids telling me to get out of bed, and I'm usually on daddy duty in the morning time. But to that point, very important, and I actually do that when I get to my office before I get out the car, and actually ground myself, as you've said, and just put myself in a place of calm before I actually get into the workday. So wherever that may be, guys, you know, definitely work on that. It really helps to just get your center of focus right before you step into your day.
Right.
So question for you.
Yes, sir.
Throw something at you. If you found out tonight that you could have dinner with any 2 people, alive or from the history books, who would they be?
Alive or the history books? Well, there's so many people. Would love to have dinner with MLK. At this point, there are 2 people that I miss dearly who passed away, and one is my sister, Artia. She passed away in a car accident in 2008, and I would just love to just spend time laughing with her. She loved life. She loved to laugh. She loved people. And so I would just sit with her one more time and just have a great laugh. And then the other person was my grandmother, Josephine Small. I I was just mom, call her mom. She was everybody's mom. And so grandma, I probably would just sit with her and just listen to her nuggets about life. Grandma, like I said, she was just such a wise woman who just said so many weird things back then that I now see myself using in my day-to-day professional life. That those little things that she would say that you never thought. Like she would always say, you can get bees, more bees with honey than you can vinegar. And so talking about how you relate to people, how you communicate with people, not to fly off the handle, not to be attitudinal, but really using the art of communication to get what you need. Just things like that grandma would say. Nothing comes to a sleeper but a dream. And saying you got to get up and each day be active in life, make things happen. If you just sit back and you slept, you're just gonna dream. But when you wake up, there's still no reality there. And so things like that. So those are two of the people that I would want to have dinner with.
Thanks for sharing that. And I guess it leads me to another question. Did family have an effect in shaping your career? And if so, why is family so valuable to kind of the journey you're on?
I wouldn't be here without family. Family is very important to me. They have helped shaped me into the man I am today. They have guided me. They have supported me as a first generation college student. While they didn't go to college themselves, many in my family, they knew it was important, and they knew it was important that I got there. And so when they talk about it takes a village, my entire village helped raise me, and my entire village helped get me to this point in my life. And so family is of utmost importance to me because of the role that they played. I didn't even realize higher ed was a profession until I was a senior. Graduating from college, I didn't realize that people actually got paid to, work in admissions and work in student activities and all that other stuff. And so I did have an aunt who was a teacher, and what she did was she exposed me. She didn't have any biological kids, and so I was de facto one of her biological kids, and so she exposed me to a whole lot. And I think that exposure. Wow. I'm from a very small town in South Florida called Pahokee. And so coming from Pahokee, my Aunt Janice exposed me to so much that once I realized that there was a life outside of Pahokee, man, right. Stephen, I wanted a part of that. I mean, there were some things I can remember. She used to take me to Okeechobee Steakhouse, and I used to be a kid and could barely see over the table. We would go there, and we would have this fine meal, and I thought, wow, people go out to eat and they don't have to get a number, right? Give me number 4, give me number 3 with no cheese. And so I remember her taking me to my first NFL game. I think I was in 5th grade when I went to my first, and it was actually the New Orleans Saints and the New York Jets.
Wow.
And just seeing life, I thought only like really, really rich people got to go to NFL games. I didn't know those were just regular people. And so the more I got that exposure, the more I wanted to do and be more in my life.
Let me ask you, was there ever one specific decision that you made, or maybe a defining moment that you considered to be a significant one and really resulted in you getting to where you are today?
Wow. I think from my work in student government as a student leader, because I high school, college was my do-over. College was my do-over. So I know that, we're talking to a lot of professional people, but, if there were any young people out there, high school, I didn't, as a male, you didn't want to be, too. I can remember one of my teachers saying, Tyvi, you would say some of the most brilliant things, then you would follow that up with some of the stupidest things I've ever heard. And so what I would do is when I found myself being too smart, and my boys would look at me like, where'd that come from? And then so I would have to say something totally stupid, to counteract all the intelligence. I was, this was life. You want to fit in. You wanted to, you wanted to be a part of the crowd, right? And
I connect to you on that, man.
I remember Mr. Davis saying that to me. He said, you would say some of the most brilliant stuff followed by the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And so, and so when I got to college, that was my opportunity for a do-over. That was my opportunity to be and do and get involved in everything I wanted to. And so that that's what college was for me. That's what college did for me. I didn't know a whole lot about college. I know that when Dr. Wright came to my high school, you remember Dr. Wright, I'm sure.
Dr. Wright is the reason I came to USF.
Same here. And once I got accepted into USF, that was my opportunity to do and be all the things that I never either knew I could be or knew I can be in public without really ridicule. So I think I don't even remember what the question was, but yeah, I thought that was a pretty significant story.
Yep. That's cool. So we spoke about comfort zones earlier, right? How do you keep from falling into and getting stuck in comfort zones with your work?
If I'm not challenging myself and pushing myself, I know when I get, you have to know self, right? Know thyself, right? So I know me. I know when I am not being challenged. I know when I am not pushing myself. When life gets too easy, when I don't get those butterflies in my stomach,
you get stuck in routine.
And so if I don't have that, I know that, life just gets too easy. And so when I see that happening, I either challenge myself, my team and I will come up with something new, the next impactful thing. I don't do things just to do it, but because it has to have impact. And so what I try to do is come up with the next opportunity to make an impact. And so that gets me out of my comfort zone. That gets me to the next challenge. And so that's what I generally do. And I talk to the people that I work with, particularly my bosses, and I say, hey, listen, what's on the horizon? What's the next thing that's coming up? And so I try to stay on the forefront of that and try to then head that off. And so I'm always trying to give myself a new challenge because I feel myself.
So what does that look like, right? Like how does that, is that setting goals? Is that writing out plans? Like give us an idea of what we could do to kind of push ourselves to that new and higher height.
To definitely set goals, figure out, have a 2, 3, 5 year plan, right? Figure out where you want to be and then write it down. It's not, you can have a plan in your mind, but when you get up every morning and you see that plan taped to your mirror or in your bathroom or wherever it is that that you frequent in your house or in your office, if it's written on, get a board, a dry erase board, and write those things down. And when you look at it every day, it continues. It's almost like your guiding star, right? Because every day you see that, that I need to be working towards that goal. So absolutely write it down. Get accountability partners. Speak it, share it, and in that way, when people ask you about it, you have no choice but to continue to work forward or work towards it. Because guess what? You've put it in the atmosphere. You have spoken something that is not as though it were. So now you got to make it happen.
All right, Napoleon Hill. Guys, I have to take a opportunity right there, Tyvi. I've been listening to Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill all weekend in audiobook format. And almost everything you're touching on right there is points in this book from 80 years ago, right?
Right.
80 years ago. The reason Andrew Carnegie and, so many others were successful, are because of exactly the points you've just shared, getting a mastermind group, getting accountability partners, writing out your goals and reading them to yourself, a couple times a day. It works. It just outright works, right?
It does. It absolutely does. I mean, and you have to hold yourself accountable. You have to realize that, you need other people to hold you accountable, but first and foremost, you have to hold yourself accountable.
Yeah.
You have to be honest with yourself to say, if you are honest, sometimes we can play this humble card when it comes to other people and, oh no, I'm just working hard, just doing it. But at some point you have to look at yourself and say, this is what I want, this is where I want to go, and this is how I got to get there. So be honest and true to yourself about where you want to be and what you want to do, and then make it happen.
Absolutely. So let's come back to your team for a second, right?
Right.
Maybe share with some of the folks listening who may manage teams or entrepreneurs looking to grow their business. What are 3 fundamental lessons you'd teach a rookie on your team to help lay a firm foundation for success in their career and also as part of the team in helping you guys grow?
Number one, I think it is. You have to when you're leading people and managing teams, you have to give them the tools they need to be successful, and then get out of their way, right? So your job as a leader and a manager is to keep them away from the politics and the noise of the organization, right? And so you have to understand that your role as a leader is to shield and protect your team from all of that stuff, so that they can bring their best selves to work every day. And so that's one of the things that I try to live by in terms of leading my team. The other thing is, I would say, is passion. You got to be passionate about what you do. Your team feeds off of your energy and your attitude. And so you have to bring that passion. You have to bring a positive attitude to work every day. And then the other thing is when people talk about leadership, Stephen, I assign a moral and ethical value to people who I consider a leader, right? Mm-hmm. So, because some people say, well, a leader, somebody who gets a job or a task accomplished, right? Mm-hmm. Well, in that case, Hitler would be considered a leader. I don't consider him a leader. Bin Laden, people will say him. I don't consider him a leader. And so I assign a moral and ethical compass to the people that I consider leaders. And so I would say, leaders, you have to be the moral and ethical compass of your organizations, of your teams, whether you're starting out as an entrepreneur, or you're working for a Fortune 1 or Fortune 500 company. Whatever team you lead, whether it's a team of 1, meaning yourself, or a team of 100, you have to set the moral and ethical compass for your organizations.
Right. Absolutely. Those are great lessons, man. Great tips to focus on. Tyvi, I just want to take a quick 30 seconds to acknowledge you. You have made a commitment to impact the lives that will shape the generations to come, and you're improving our world with the work that you're doing right now at University of Tennessee, and just giving back through all the organizations in your community that you lend your time and resources to. And
thank you.
You're just a terrific example and role model for our future trailblazers. And on behalf of our community, we just want to thank you for your commitment each and every day in the work that you're doing.
You're welcome. I enjoy doing what I do. I really do enjoy it.
Awesome. So we've got just a few more minutes, so I'm going to speed things up a bit. Are you ready?
Ready.
All right. So what's one book you've read in the past year that's inspired you?
There are a few that inspired me. I want to stay away from the political realm here. My fiance just gave me The Go-Giver, and so I'm really I haven't read the book all the way through, but I'm taking nuggets out of that book in terms of how to give back and how to lead with community in mind. The other thing is Leadership by Rudy Giuliani was really, really good in terms of the leadership lessons that he learned from 9/11. And then last, Walking with the Wind by John Lewis. That was one of the most, oh my goodness, that was one of the most honest and real. John Lewis is Representative John Lewis in Congress in D.C. And was one of the SNCC leaders. And if you saw the movie, MLK movie, I'm thinking with the song Glory, I can't remember the name of it. Recently, he was one of the student leaders of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and that was one of the most powerful, honest, just salient depictions of the civil rights movement that I've read ever. And so I would definitely say that's probably my top. Walking with the Wind by John Lewis.
All right, guys. If you guys are on the go, just remember that I'm going to post this on the show notes page at tvpod.com. So we'll put up all these books there for you guys to get access to them. Tyvi, what is something small you've done in the last month that you're proud of?
Oh, small. I spend time with my mentee. I have a young man who goes to church with me, who we have some of the same background, and just today, I spent some time with him, listening to him, talking to him, pouring into him. And so I think that it's our responsibility to give back. And so just spending time with my mentee, or driving my mom. My mom got a new car here in Knoxville, and driving all the way from Tennessee to Florida to bring her new car.
Nice.
So that she needed a tutorial, because it's one of those cars where it has push button start. And so mom was like, wait a minute, I'm in information overload. So I said, you know what, mom, instead of shipping the car, I'll just drive it down for you. Boy, boy, was that tired. That was tiring, but it's what you do for family.
Nice. Tell me, can a trailblazer have too many goals?
A trailblazer can't have too many goals, but you have to prioritize the importance of the goals, right? So you can have a bunch of goals, but you have to be realistic. You can't eat the whole elephant in one sitting. You have to, take bite by bite by bite by bite. And so definitely have lots of goals, have lots of lofty goals, but organize them and prioritize them, and then go one at a time. And even if you don't succeed in every goal, at least you tried. Someone says, shoot for the moon, and even if you miss, you'll still land among the stars. That's what I look at in terms of goal setting. Sometimes It's not about the journey, about the destination, but it's about the journey. Even though if you never hit it, but you were better today than you were yesterday, and you'll be better tomorrow than you were today. And so look at the destination, look at the journey, not necessarily the destination.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Name an online resource. It could be an app, software, or tool that you use every day that you can't live without.
This is simple. Email. I'm just a regular old email guy. I'm not a real big techie. But email I use often. I use my Outlook, and then MapQuest. I am horrible with directions, and so I am plugging in my phone to MapQuest almost every. I've lived in Knoxville 8 years, and I still use MapQuest to go to the simplest places. Don't judge me.
Nice. Tyvi, why is it important for you to volunteer and give back with both your time and talent?
You only have one life, like I said earlier, and you want to make the best of it. And I know that I didn't get to where I am or to where I'm going by myself. There were people who poured into me, who took time to mentor me, who took time to sponsor me, who took time to show me things that I would not have seen otherwise. And so I think it's incumbent on me to do the same. So to whom much is given, much is required. And so I think it's not only something nice to do, but I think it's my duty. It's my job to impact my community, wherever that may be. One of the things that we talk about in Leadership Knoxville is to bloom where you're planted, right? Bloom where you're planted. Whether you're in Knoxville for college, or you're in Tampa for college, or you're in your first job out of undergrad, and you're in a city for a year or a year and a half or 2 years, take an opportunity while you're planted there is bloom. Share your time. You don't know how valuable time is to other people, although it may seem as something very, very small to you. It means a whole lot to somebody else. Share your talents, right? If you have a particular skill that you can use to help your community, if you're a CPA, for instance, and there's a local not-for-profit out there who's struggling to get their books in order, or a local not-for-profit who needs somebody to help them with their financial plan, use that talent that you have to help somebody. And then your treasures, as we talk about, granted, I can't write the $1 million check like you can, Stephen, but
that was funny.
but there's something that we all can do to help another organization or help somebody in need. So I say your time, your talent, and your treasures, because we are a community, Stephen, and I am a firm believer that a rising tide raises all ships, right? So as other people do well and we all do well, we can all come up together. I don't see it as a zero-sum game where in order for me to win, you got to lose. Why can't we all win? Why can't we all rise together?
Absolutely.
And you don't understand how sharing a little bit that you do have can help change generations, right? We don't understand how important that is, when the smallest thing that we can do when we share our time, talents, and treasures can help change a generation by mentoring a young man who didn't even think college was an opportunity now or a possibility, who's now in college, who's going to graduate now, who's going to be able to then create opportunities for his siblings and his generation and in the next generation. And so that's how we raise our community. It's everybody pitching in.
Tyvi, thank you so much, man. That's such an inspiring message to help us elevate our game today, man. I'm encouraged. Tyvi, we appreciate you taking out time out of your super busy wedding planning, PhD finishing schedule, to share your inspiring tips with our community of future trailblazers, and tell us how we can stay connected to you, and we'll finish up.
I have a Instagram account. I never use it. Email Tyvi Small at Yahoo. Email me absolutely by on Yahoo, or Facebook me, Tyvi Small, TYBISMALL at Facebook. Find me on Facebook, stay connected. I'm always willing to help where I can, and to do what I can to help folks be the best them every day.
Man, I appreciate you so much for taking the time today. Thank you again.
Thank you for having me, Stephen, and thank you for doing this. You are doing great work, and sometimes you're so entrenched in the work that you don't take time to think about what you've done. But I think you're really opening a wonderful platform for folks to share who they are and to really inspire the next generation of leaders. So thank you so much for what you do, Stephen.
Thank you very much, man. Appreciate it.
Alrighty.
Well, that's it, guys. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Trailblazers podcast. I hope that you guys took some really good notes today. I know that, I've listened to this episode at least 5 times now, and I've got something new every single time. So I'm going to go ahead and post links to Tyvi's recommendations for books and resources on our show notes page. You can find that on our website at tvpod.com/episode 8. Now, if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave us an honest review. You can do that on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and or TuneIn. Now, listen up, guys. We are putting things in place to launch a brand new exclusive Facebook group to build a community for like-minded business professionals and entrepreneurs. And if you'd like access to our private community, I want you to go ahead and shoot me an email or connect with me on Twitter. My handle is @TBPod, and I want you to let me know that you would have an interest in the community. When it does go live, we're going to be looking to let in only, those people who are extremely passionate, that are confident and ready for success at the highest level. So stay tuned for more information on the private community group, and we'll be able to get active together as a group with that. So once again, I just want to say thank you so much for listening to today's episode. Now I want you to go out, rise above, and go way beyond to make today great.